Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the North American Go for Guild Wars 2 monthly final. My name is Blue, joined today by Rookkill, and we're heading into the grand final now, which once again is going to feature the Abjured. But taking them on is a bit of an old name that for those of you that have been following Guild Wars over the past year, you might recognize them, and for those of you that are newer, you might not, but they're definitely a team which has already proven themselves here tonight. They just managed to beat out that rather peculiar composition being played by our last participants. It's going to be, guys, Apex Prime, taking them on for the top prize of $1,000, and of course second place as well, heading home with $300.
Always nice to have a little $300 there. Of course, that $1,000 every single month. It's got to be so nice for the Abjured. Let's see if Apex can maybe change things up a little bit. Maybe they want the $1,000 a little bit more this month.
Yeah, definitely. So once again, as we head directly into the game to check things out here, we've actually got a really quick build overview as we've already basically seen what the guys on Apex have been running. So starting us off here, we are going to have the Abjured running over here on the red side. Apex Prime will be on the blue team. Just a quick one more time, we'll be overviewing Apex. We didn't officially really go over them in the last set because we focused so much on the other team. Starting us off with Knight, he's going to be running with Greatsword Staff as well as Zerker Amulet. It's pretty much your standard Shatter Mesmer here. Once again, a lot of bursts in a very small period of time, but as with pretty much all Zerker builds, is fairly squishy. Morpheus is going to be running with a DPS Guardian 01616. This one's going to be a lot more sustainable compared to Knight, as it does have heavy armor and a lot more just overall, again, very small cooldowns that he can use to keep himself healed up and keep himself alive within a team fight there, but lacks a little bit more mobility and is a lot more restricted to a shorter range. Moving over to Happy Kid, of course, he's a lot more like Knight. Large amounts of damage that comes in. Melee, however, not at range like it does with Knight. Dagger Pistol with a short bow, Zerker's Amulet, and Runes of the Pack with the traits being 60206. It will be a Panic Strike build. He's the one to engage, take players below 50% health, and then once that immobilizes off, the rest of the players coming to finish him off. Tarsus, once again, now we have to see, will he continue to run with that great sword? Unfortunately, he will not. He's going to switch things over to a Shout Bow now with Sword, Offhand Warhorn, as well as a Longbow, Celestial Amulet, and Runes of the Soldier. And last but not least is going to be H-Man running the same build. As we move over very quickly to the Abjured to check them out, Phantom will be running basically the exact same build as Morpheus, so we don't have to go over that. 5 Gauge is running on a Celestial Rifle CC Engineer here. Nos is going to be running on a Power Necromancer using Staff, Dagger Warhorn with Zerker's Amulet, Runes of the Pack, and a 62006 trait split. Once again, this is a very, very glass cannony build, but as an extra super powerful elite, which is going to be that Lich form there, which really all he has to do is spam 1 inside of that, and he does pretty much all the damage he needs to, but it's also very easy to focus him down from within sight of that. And then last but not least here is going to be Dustin, otherwise known as Magic Toker, running the same build as Happy Kid. And we actually do have one more too, which will be Wakey. He should be rejoining in just a second, and if memory serves me correctly, and if the comp from previous weeks will remain unchanged, he is probably going to be running with another Shout Bow Warrior for these guys.
Yeah, but what about another NG?
No.
I'm gonna poke this.
This is the finals now. This is the finals.
This is let's get down to business.
We're a lot more serious here at the finals.
Okay.
We're not trying to prove any points here. We just want the cash. So.
And of course, the Abjured really have their play style solidified. I mean, you probably could have called out what they were gonna bring without even looking at it, I'm guessing.
Yeah, definitely. So they have changed it up, obviously. They played this last month as well. They've changed it up since WTS to this kind of more bursty composition, as they have Phantom not playing on an Elementalist anymore, but running over here on a DPS Guardian. 5 Gauge still plays the same build he's normally used to. Magic Toker is used to playing a much more passive Sword Dagger build, but has phased that out for himself back over to the Dagger Pistol build for a lot more active damage. And Nos as well, normally playing a Condi build on his Necromancer, is now playing a full-on Power Necro, which again, that was also kind of an interesting switch. I really didn't expect to see that one, but it does have a lot of DPS at its disposal there, and it's fairly easy to connect that DPS too. The only risk involved in playing this build is actually, again, just keeping it alive so he can't allow himself to get ganked. It relies a lot on players like 5 Gauge and the other members here like Wakey, when we see him getting rejoined here, to keep him in the fray, keep him alive, and make sure that he does not go down very quickly. Otherwise, they're going to lose that damage to start things off.
So if we see Apex really box out 5 Gauge, or wait, that was Dustin, sorry. If we see him boxed out, he's going to be able to be taken down pretty easily?
Yeah, this would be for Nos. Nos is, if he gets focused down, or if he's able to get CC'd, if he overextends, things such as that get him out of position from the rest of his teammates, it should be a fairly easy kill. There's not a lot of ways to escape that, not a large amount of mobility on a Power Necro here. He's got the Spectral Armor for defense, but beyond that, doesn't really have anything else that he can use except maybe throwing down a mark or two to fear people away, and unfortunately that's really used for more offensive purposes than it is used for defensive purposes.
Is it going to be easier to get Nos away from the group, or to get the rest of the group away from Nos?
I would say probably, again, considering the fact that, considering the composition that they are running, I would say probably try to just get, it's definitely hard. I would probably have to say try to get NOS away from the rest of the group, because either way here, both these teams have a large amount of Zerker-focused players, and if they try to just dive right in onto NOS, it's probably going to end pretty badly, as they'll basically be jumping into the Hornet's Nest, which we all know how well that will go.
Yeah, it seems pretty much like a bad idea at face value, so there's no real, oh, if we go into this right, if we jump into the Hornet's Nest right, we're going to get out okay. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be...
You have to wait for him to, because he needs to get close too in order to deal his damage. He does rely a little bit on melee with the dagger to do the real damage. He can harass a little bit with the staff, but most of his prowess does come from that dagger spam as well as his death shield spam, and Lich as well. So you just kind of got to wait for him to get a little bit too close to the action, and then you just snap away, hopefully, before his teammates can defend him.
Okay, now opening moves, we got a little stealth right to that mid bridge.
We'll see where they decide to take this. The guys, oh my goodness here, the guys, and I'm sure think that there's a much larger ink coming to this point than there actually is. Look at this, they're just going for Tarsus right now. Tarsus, however, with that nice sphere, is able to negate pretty much the entire enemy team of the Abjured, with the exception of one of their players. And this is a huge miscalculation by the Abjured, because take a look at mid here, and Wakey, he's already been pretty much evicted from the point. The guys on the Abjured are racing back over here to try and stop this cap from happening, and they're going to come into this now. NOS will go right for the Lich. This is actually a really smart secondary engagement that's coming out here from the Abjured, and I hesitate to believe now this was actually a mistake they made at the start, because take a look, they've done the exact opposite of what we just said happened. Nice Mo that comes off here on the NOS, though, as he's popped that Lich form. It's essentially gone to the wayside now, and now all they've got to do is focus him down. Lots of DPS coming onto him. Magic Toker is also with it downstate. NOS has fallen as well here, and we've got so much damage, but a huge Res Manor comes down and gets both NOS and Magic Toker back up, but NOS immediately falls back into the downstate now, and we are going to see him pretty much stuck there at this point. Lots of DPS coming in from Apex Prime, and NOS is going to be the first kill scored here, as Apex Prime will take the lead, eliminate Wakey as well. Magic Toker dangerously, though, he's going for a back cut, but won't be able to find anything there, as there's 3 players defending that via portal, and right immediately from the start here, Apex Prime will take a huge advantage.
Absolutely massive advantage in that respect. However, 49 points 35, it's still not a breakaway for Apex Prime. This is early enough that the Abjured can probably recover from this.
And especially with how aggressively Apex Prime is playing this right now, too. If they continue to play things as aggressively as they are now, I really fear that they could find themselves in a position as to where the Abjured manages to clutch a kill or two away from them. Like, I mean, you can already see this. Look, Happy Kid got hit pretty heavily there, too, and he's found himself in the downstate. This is what Apex has to be careful of. If they pressure things too heavily too quickly, then the Abjured is just going to bite them right in the butt, and they'll take back that lead very fast.
Although we do have Happy Kid down, so it's 4 versus what looks to be 5 in the middle. Advantage to Abjured, maybe? Phantom's going down, has stayed down in the downstate for a while, might be able to come back up. Looks like he's going to get healed, but yes, and he's back up. That's a full 5.
Full res, and they've also taken Morpheus down here. Knight also falls down as well, and again, pretty much as we foretold it, they're way too aggressive play. They're going to be able to save Knight and allow him to evacuate from mid, but mid is essentially forfeit at this point. NOS goes down. They have one last chance to rally this team fight by taking out NOS, but that's not going to happen, as now we see another player from the side of Apex Prime going down, and full dead here as well. Knight re-engages, and as does Happy Kid. Both of those guys are going to fall into the downstate, and unfortunately for Apex, what started off as such a promising opener here is unfortunately going to get thrown away far too quickly because of some over-aggressive play.
Well, it's once the Abjured collect themselves after that kind of an opening fight, once they take the deep breath and say, all right, what just happened here? Obviously, they have the answer. They're very experienced. They're a very coordinated team. They're able to come up with those responses so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely, and now we do see as well here the Abjured, they're going to continue to pressure once again back over at the home node for Apex Prime here. We'll even see a banner used unsuccessfully in an attempt to resurrect Tarsus. Happy Kid will come over here trying to again return that pressure that we had going on to the guys on Apex earlier when they decided to push in, but the guys on the Abjured are in a much more healthier position to go for a push like this, and they're even still scoring kills here despite being essentially in enemy territory. Happy Kid was also eliminated a few moments ago here too. NOS might fall down in a second, but he's going to be able to channel his heal off, and he gets some stealth there, I believe, from Magic Toker as well, so he's still going to be in a really safe position. H-Man falls down, and again, the Abjured is just steamrolling Apex now, not giving them any room to breathe whatsoever.
Although, if you look at it, still, the points. Apex is still in a great spot. Abjured, 156. Against that 163, it's not all that much separating these two teams right now. It may look like that in the team fights, but somehow Apex is still keeping a card on the table, get their hand in the game.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And the guys over here on Apex still have a couple chances to bring things back into their favor just about now, since Abjurd was playing. Obviously, they were playing for very quick kills in the fights themselves, not really focusing on the points, of course. It did mean that it would still take them a little bit more time to get to the points and steal them away from their opponents. This is the kind of game that they're playing. This is actually the way a very old team used to play things. If I'm assuming most people will remember them. A team by the name of Team Paradigm used to play like this. Phantom used to be a member of them, exactly, or rather, Phantom used to be a member of them, and they actually used to play this strategy quite a bit, where they would focus a lot more on the roads when their opponents would take an advantage, just kind of take away player by player to the point where they wouldn't actually be able to even defend nodes, and they would just let them take it for free, and they would just continue to move that around the map time and time again. They did it really well on this map here too, and I think a strategy such as that is being incorporated right now.
How difficult is that to kind of pull off?
It relies on Apex doing what they did at the start here, which is overcommitting after they won an engagement here. They did go too aggressively. They kind of went right into the Abjurd's territory. They played right into their trap, and this is unfortunately exactly what the Abjurd wanted them to do, so they immediately just started utilizing it right from there. And once it starts, it's really hard to stop it, unfortunately, especially with the compositions that both of these teams are playing at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Abjurd, though, just handling it so well. Apex has some options, though. What options are on the table for Apex? Because they are still keeping up somewhat or falling behind.
I would say right now the big thing, especially because this is just happening at this very moment, is fall the heck back and focus on defending mid. They've managed to go in there. They managed to push the Abjurd back into completely their home node by hopefully, again, the Abjurd kind of hoping that no one would go for mid and they would focus again on this big team fight, but that's not happening. They've got mid and they can potentially hold on to it. They've just got to get enough of that pressure onto here to where they can actually keep this team fight going. They've got H-Man tanking most of the damage right now off the point here too. They have managed to find 5-gauge, so if they're able to kill him, that'll be a pretty big early take in this team fight here, just because he's a large portion of the CC from the Abjurd. So if they can eliminate him early, that's going to be a huge take. But unfortunately, again, they've split up the players on Apex, and it's not looking like, at least not right now, that's not going to happen. But also, you still have Happy Kid. He's going to push over towards the mine. He'll find that point basically for free, and from that point forward, that is still going to give Apex a couple options to work with here.
Although, if you look at the hit point pools for Apex versus the Abjurd, you're seeing a lot more often. You're seeing members of Apex being incredibly low, or at least one member of the team being down. With that being the team fighting, at least trend right now, I don't know. Can Apex really play the way that they're playing at all?
Apex just needs to try and reset something. The problem is that they've been on the defensive for far too long, and with a comp such as this, I mean, the same applies to the Abjurd, but the Abjurd has just been in the advantage scenario in the fact that they've always been playing an offensive position ever since they first lost that first engagement and turned it back around when Apex aggressed back over towards the mine. They've pretty much been on the offensive since that point.
And
yeah, it's all about that tempo. It's all about that kind of momentum and keeping it going there. If Apex is able to find a couple kills and turn this back around and force the same thing onto the Abjurd, they could be pulling off the exact same scenario right now. It's just unfortunate that the Abjurd has been doing an absolutely phenomenal job of keeping the Apex locked in a defensive position, which with a comp such as this, they really cannot do all that well.
So Apex has to just stop the Abjurd. Very simple.
Pretty much, yeah.
Or simply said. Simply said, not simply done.
In layman's terms, they have to kill them, and they have to do that.
You don't have to kill them necessarily. You can,
or at least force them to retreat and reset in some form. They need to find a way to get themselves onto the offensive, is basically the simplest way to put it.
What about trying to drag them, make them run around, drag them around the map, make them go all the way up top? We're seeing actually Happy Kids up there, so that's Apex actually being on weird sides of the map, but maybe pulling them off towards the mine if you can.
Well, that's actually sort of what they're doing here right now. You can see that they forced them into mid to fight in a bit of an awkward position. Tarsus as well as Morpheus, along with H-Man here too, did have a pretty good start with Morpheus dealing a nice amount of damage, and you can see as well that they did have to overcommit a little bit to their home node, which is going to contribute to still a successful defense from the Abjurd, but had they have not gotten played out by Dustin a little bit here, they might have been able to put up enough of an effort to, now that again the Abjurd had been forced into defending one of their points, they might have been able to take that, but unfortunately because that wasn't the case, and because again they ended up leaving themselves outnumbered because they overestimated the amount of players that were going to come and try to take advantage, this puts them into a situation where once again they will find themselves on the defensive and just running for the entire match, it seems.
So a little bit of a misread coming out.
Yep, and this is unfortunately probably going to take us pretty much to the end of the match here, as the Abjurd is now leading things 429 to 327 points with a 2-cap into their favor. Not seeing really any sign. Nos has gotten low quite a few times here, but I'm not really seeing anything that would indicate the guys guys on Apex will be able to make some miraculous turnaround here, as they themselves are also losing players left and right. Knight has fallen down. Morpheus has fallen as well here. He's going to be able to get back up through a banner res, but once again here, with no other sign of them taking control of this map anytime soon, and with only 40 seconds less than that actually remaining until we see the guys on the Abjured claim victory, I think it's safe to say that map number 1 will fall into the hands of the Abjured, and they will be only one more map away from continuing their absolutely perfect play here in these ESL tournaments and continuing that into the monthlies as well, as they will take what I believe would be their 5th monthly in a row.
Well, it's not over yet. Maybe they've got another map. Yeah, I mean, they've definitely taken this one. Definitely. I think we can all agree on that one. I mean, but what from Apex looks like it could work?
Apex's overall opening team fight was extremely well placed there. They did a fantastic job of just controlling the scenario and really locking down the guys on the Abjured. It's going to be a little bit harder to pull off on Legacy, just because Legacy's a little bit more of an unpredictable territory to work with, especially with these comps in play in regards to who goes where at the start, because the guys on the Abjured could play rather aggressive and try to force all their guys back over to another point. They could play super defensive and keep everyone back while they wait for the guys on Apex to reveal themselves in mid should they go there. There's a lot of kind of ifs, ands, or buts that come into play when you open there, but I do think if they're able to pull off such a successful opener again on Legacy, that we could see a strong start. All it comes down to from that point forward is, again, not overcommitting and just focusing on what you have, working on the defense from there. From my experience, I found that a lot of the time, whoever opens up second in the team fight does have a pretty good advantage, and especially on a map like this, if they try to force it down to just Waterfall as well as Graveyard being the fighting point, Apex can put themselves in that secondary engagement scenario like 9 times out of 10.
Is there any problem with their team composition that's going to interfere with them being able to respond properly to what we're seeing out of the Abjured?
No, I don't think so. Both these teams have pretty much exactly what you would expect to see on a team. You've got decent support coming in, which is going to be in the form of H-Man as well as Tarsus. You've got someone to go for backcaps on this map, which is going to be Happy Kid, and you've got that nice sustainable in-fight DPS, which comes in through the form of Knight as well as Morpheus here as well. Now, we are still waiting for Tarsus to reconnect, so they might still be deciding, and actually, no, he is still on the server, so it looks like they'll still be sticking with that 2 Celestial Warrior split here at the moment. So no Great Sword Warrior as of yet, but we could potentially see them still perform pretty strongly in mid, as they do have, again, that nice solid comp for fighting as a big group and fighting as one unit.
Although, I mean, looking at the previous series, even when they were getting ahead like that, it was close. It was scary. So them coming across something more conventional and I'll say dangerous build where you can't afford to make mistakes. There's less margin for error, less margin for I guess, improvisation.
Yeah, there's less margin for error, but it pays off in much higher dividends than, say, some of the Celestial compositions that we kind of were seeing in recent months and up to the WTS Season 2 finals. Once again, like we pretty much, case in point, what we saw in map number 1, like the Abjured were just taking Apex for a ride for about 75% of that first map there. They were just running them around the map while the guys on the Abjured, just whenever they walked by a point that Apex happened to control, they would just steal that away, because Apex, they'd killed like 3 or 4 of the members by that point, and they couldn't do anything to defend it, so they wouldn't even try to. They would just be too busy running away from the Abjured. That's what really pays off. It's very risky, and you often have extremely close fights because you don't have a lot of defense, but when you take the lead, you absolutely run away with it.
Yeah, you just can't afford to mess it up. You can't make any mistakes, though.
Yeah,
that's the big problem. You have to get so much experience to be able to figure out what to do in every possible situation, or how to recover from every little fumble, because it's not necessarily just, not making mistakes, it's recovering from a lot of those mistakes.
Yeah, that's another big thing too. And this is really what I respect about running a composition like this, as it not only is very risky to begin with, but it also requires a lot of team coordination. You really need to communicate with your teammates, constantly calling out positions of your enemies and yourself too, because if you're running low on cooldowns, you need to be able to call out when you go down, because with everyone being so squishy, when you go down, you're going to get corpse cleave pretty quickly compared to if you're a much tankier individual. So you've got to watch out for that sort of thing and constantly be able to pull your teammates over, especially with everyone else being so squishy. Not everyone can afford to jump on your body, so unless you can have 3 to 4 players getting onto your body at once, most of the time you're not going to be able to get res. That's a really important thing to see. We saw that from Abjured a couple times, and they were able to save a lot of team fights just because they were able to have 3 or 4 of their guys jump on, even though they were all squishier individuals.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we are getting closer and closer, by the way, just so you guys know. Match is going to start in about 6 seconds, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Take a look at the teams. No big changes, right?
Nope, not looking like we have any changes on the board here. Again, the only thing I would think we would have seen would have been Tarsus, but that's not going to get changed here either. Just want to check Knight and Happy Kid to be sure. And yet, both those guys are sticking with their same exact builds, as will the Absurd. So anyway, guys, here we go once again with what could be our final map of the evening. It's the Absurd taking on Apex Prime, with the Absurd in the advantage position in this set. We're on Legacy of the Foefire, and both teams are going at it in mid. So let's take a look at what's going on.
Yeah, we had that stealth in from Apex Prime. The Absurd didn't see them until the last moment, and now Nos was very low for just a moment, but looks like he's just going to go back to full health. Everything's fine here, and Apex Prime's going to start taking a lot of damage.
Nos also sitting up on top of the Mausoleum at the moment here. He's going to bring his Lich out into play, struggling a little bit to get that damage out, and is actually going to see his, we are actually going to see his Vampirism runes getting popped off quite early, so he will be the first player to get popped down. And again, we're in that same situation as H-Man comes in there, gets that stop. SR, Slick Shoes, a lot of defensive cooldowns there from the Absurd are going to absolutely go wasted now, and this is going to be a pretty big opener once again from Apex, as now we're going to see the Absurd forced into that defensive position. Now Apex just needs to execute upon this. Don't push themselves too far, but they can definitely force the Absurd off of this point and start to take an advantage here at the beginning of the set.
Yeah, because you're seeing numerous players all over the Absurd just going into the downstate, and soon will be going down. Now, where... You got to draw the line for me. Where is it going to be too far for Apex Prime? Where are they going to be overextending and really getting too greedy with this?
Right now, Apex has a lot of freedom to do this because, again, you've still got Magic Toker is full dead right now. Wakey and Phantom are both bleeding out right now, so you know at least 3 players are off the board. The only person that you would have to remotely worry about would be Nos, and now that 5Gage has been forced inside the base, Nos is literally the only person that's on the map right now for the guys on the Absurd. They can easily overextend and go wherever the heck they want, so long as they're back in time for the respawns. And most players should know how to time respawns. I'm going to assume that Apex knows how to time that. So as you're seeing now, they're already moving to try and box them in and basically put the guys on the Absurd in that same position that Apex was in for the majority of that first map. However, I already like what the Absurd is doing. They're trying to take Apex for a ride here. They're going to have some nice stealth being popped off there by Magic Toker with that field, and it is going to allow these guys to disengage and now wrap right over here towards the windmill, or waterfall rather, and take that essentially for free.
Yeah, and opposite side of the map, we do have 5Gage moving in on the mine, is going to start working on H-Man. Results there. Prediction, this will take a little while?
Yeah, it's probably going to take some time against Selly on Selly. It's usually what we expect. H-Man's kind of eating some of the damage, though, but again, we'll come back to this in a little bit. The main bulk of action, of course, is happening right here on mid, where we do have the Absurd. They're moving in. They're going to try to take control of mid, having a little bit of trouble actually getting themselves on to the point, but we're going to have to wait and see now, as they have put a nice amount of damage on tonight. He is going to be forced to fall back here, get himself out of harm's way. Immobilize is coming off there from Fantaram, but Fantaram himself is overextending a little bit too much here now. He's got his heal ready to go, whereas Knight does not, and now Knight will be the first player to fall in this team fight, and it's up to Apex to recover it.
But Knight is going to get back up. We're going to see a little bit of a recovery there. This is maybe a point where we could see the disengagement, but Apex Prime is going to stay in the fight, and the Absurd will join them.
Yeah, and they are actually going to play this one off the point, so they will let... Oh my goodness, nice gank there from Magic Toker. Immediately just destroys Knight there. Didn't even see him coming, so Knight unfortunately is going to be stopped in his tracks, and what appeared to be a fairly controllable team fight for Apex has unfortunately gone really badly, really quickly. Happy Kid's dead. Morpheus is dead. Knight obviously already down. It's up to Tarsus and H-Man to defend this midpoint, as well as the Quarry now. H-Man is going to win his 1v1, it would appear, versus 5Gear, to very least force him to disengage for now. But at the end of the day, we're now going to see Absurd. They've got their strat going. They've got about 130 points to make up, but they can definitely do it. And especially now that we are seeing Apex, his last man standing, force off of their one and only point and allowing them to take control of it.
Yeah, well, Dustin looking for H-Man's going to find him. Is he going to be able to get the kill, though?
H-Man is going to be fairly tanky, so it will take some time, but now that we've got Phantom jumping into the mix here, too, they might just be able to pull it off here, as H-Man's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and there it is, nowhere to run. He's going to dive back over there towards the Quarry to re-engage onto that, as that is where his teammates are also going. They are all stealthed up right now. There's no one to jump on, though. They can't find any targets to engage upon, and now they're going to have to kind of dive into here. Happy Kid goes immediately from Magic Toker. A nice amount of damage is tossed onto him, as he's almost immediately forced to pop his heal, following that up immediately with another backstab here, forcing Magic Toker into his SR, but Magic Toker re-engages. Happy Kid dodging around, trying to get himself outside of this DPS, and finally we'll see Magic Toker fall back, but he's quick to pop right back out of there, and this could be trouble for Happy Kid. Magic Toker sneaking up slowly but surely. Nos also getting that damage. Pokeball from Phantaram, and there you have it. Happy Kid first to fall in this team fight so far.
Absolutely brutal by the Absurd. They're keeping Apex on the back foot the entire time. I don't see a point where they're able to get that lead back. They have to try and, even while they're taking huge losses, try and make some kind of recovery or counterplay, which seems absolutely insane as a task, as an objective to try and come back into this one.
And this is
167 to 183.
This has always been the big thing when it comes to the Absurd in the first place, is that if you can get an edge against them at the start, it's really, really easy to keep that edge going. And normally what ends up happening is when you end up losing that edge and when Absurd starts to get their stride back, it's normally because you messed up. And I think that that's happening here once again. These guys on Apex stretched themselves out a little bit too thinly. They've started to lose their players. They engaged on a point which, in my opinion, was probably not the best one to go to. They might have been able to make a much cleaner take of the quarry had they have just pulled H-Men back towards mid or something and then had one of their players just push over towards the quarry, but that was not the case. They wanted to go for that full big team fight, which they had confidence in their ability to take, and again, it just didn't really end up working out so well, so they're going to hand over the keys to the kingdom, at least for now, to the Absurd, and they will take not only the map advantage, but they'll take control of the score here as well, as now they are ahead of Apex by about, I would say, about 70 points now.
Yeah, a good 249 is a good point to break away with. I mean, 183, you're not even see that point score go up very much. It's only jumping up for those few kills that are happening here and there. But without a point, then Apex just doesn't have that continual point income to keep competing with the Absurd. But while Absurd has the 2 points, that is just a simple objective win.
Yep, absolutely here, and we're just going to see that continue here, at least for the next few moments, as it's looking like they may just be able to steal away middle here as well. They're actually trying really hard to get Knight back up. H-Man was almost able to sneak in there and get that one away, but that's not going to be happening, and now Knight, or H-Man rather, trying to run away from this and get back onto the quarry once again. He does have a little bit of support coming in from Morpheus, as Magic Toker is going to be forced to fall back, but Nos will also be jumping over to here as well. Justin going to jump inside of his SR just to get a couple more heals off onto himself, so he's not looking too crazy when he dives in, just under 40% of his HP here. Good dodge there too, almost got hit by that, and that could have been very brutal had he have done so, but now Phantom, Nos, and Magic Toker are all going to dive bomb on the H-Man. Big DPS to take him into the downstate. Morpheus is here, but again, he cannot do anything, and his biggest job now is to get the heck out of here and regroup with the rest of the team.
Yeah, way deep in enemy territory. You don't have any real backup for a while, and so you're going to lose so many people for that. Now, opposite side of the map, you have a little bit happening at the waterfall. Is that going to be able to really throw this back? Is Apex going to be able to grab that objective and maybe take it somewhere?
No, I wouldn't say so, because again, you've got Knight on this one. Knight potentially can set up a absolutely brutal shatter combo to take out 5-Gauge, but 5-Gauge should have enough defensive, should have enough defensive bulk to keep himself on that node long enough against Knight. He does have to be careful of eating up this damage, and it does appear actually that Knight's taken the advantage in this 1-versus-1, but at the end of the day, just this one kind of small point eliminating a member, which in this point, I think Absurd can survive without in a team fight, is really not going to be such a large deal.
Although with the fight now moving back towards mid, and then I guess, well, back towards the mine maybe again, we're going to see more control from Absurd. They're just going to lose points for a moment, take them back. What is the move? What can they do?
And Magic Toker as well just kind of dives in here. Magic Toker almost able to kill Happy Kid. That banner coming out there from Tars as well, just barely missing the mark to resurrect Happy Kid. But now they've got this Moa onto Magic Toker. They're going to try to take him down. They will execute him, but now they've got to stomp him. As once more you do have Phantom trying to go for that rest, has second thoughts on it though, and now he falls back. Happy Kid will continue the onslaught now as he's just trying to keep that snowball rolling, but the second he sees Nas, he falls back, and he's now going to have to wait once more. And I think, to answer your question a little bit more, this is just such insane pressure that always comes out from the Absurd when they take an advantage position. They constantly keep their pressure going. They do not give their opponents a second to breathe. And even though this is a very dangerous sort of play style to go with, it often ends up working for them because a lot of teams, and I think this is applying to Apex a little bit here as well, they just unfortunately don't have a lot of response, and they aren't as quick thinkers when it comes to them versus the Absurd and actually responding to this kind of pressure and trying to find ways to circumvent it.
Now, it does look like this is a point where Apex can start getting some points back. We say them controlling mid. We've got one of the big tanks from the Absurd all the way towards the waterfall, and then towards the mine we do have a grouping of Apex members. Is this where we could see them start to do it right? Is this them actually executing on what they need to in order to get some kind of a foot back into this?
This is definitely starting to look very, very good for the guys on Apex, but the problem is that it's happening really, really late in the match here. They're less than 70 points away now from seeing them, this is the Observer talking about, from seeing them claim absolute victory here in this matchup, and they even have to play this super risky, and again, Happy Kid overexposes himself, gets hit by an arcing arrow coming out there from Wakey Face, Apex, and now we're going to see Happy going down there, forced to use resources to resurrect him, and this is where things get a little bit tough, and oh my goodness there, Nos takes him down. I think Nos actually had crits coming out there once again, but Dark Pact is going to be able to take Happy Kid down for another time here, and unfortunately it's not looking like they have the resources to res, and they're going to put down that banner. We're trying to see banner gets interrupted there by either Nos or Fence, so probably Nos, and H-Man's gone. Morpheus is dead meat, and the guys on the Abjure just get themselves right back on the bandwagon with that. Nos is going to pop off his Lich somewhat unneedlessly. I think even Nos realizes at this point that this game might be going by the wayside. They're going to try to take mid with this one too, and obviously with that Lich, that's going to stop any chance of H-Man getting on and delaying that process. So they will now take control of mid. They've got the Quarry already, and now unfortunately for Apex Prime, it is looking like they've gotten to that position where the Abjure just has this victory in the bag, and I think it's safe to say that now for 5 times repeating, the victor of the ESL North American Go for Guild Wars 2 monthly series is going to be the Abjured, and they'll be taking home about $1,000 or $200 per player.
And of course all the honor and glory coming with that title and staying on top in America. Everyone knows they always win, and they just come back every month to prove it.
I do have to say, though, it's definitely getting a lot more competitive here. These matches have been a lot closer than what we've had in these previous months, and I think Apex is really, really close to cracking what is needed in order to beat the Abjured. Both times here at the beginning of these maps, we saw them take the opening advantage versus the Abjured. It was just that I think both times as well, they pushed it just a little bit too hard and stretched themselves too thinly, and from that point forward, they put the Abjured into a position which they're always in, and they've had a lot more practice in, which is kind of just dominating their opponents. They cannot let the Abjured get to that point. They have to keep them locked down for the entire map, and again, as we got to map number 2 there, Apex did it for pretty much the first half of the game, but once they let it go, then the Abjured really just came back and they didn't let themselves go, as obviously Apex wasn't really able to find any leeway once the Abjured took control there of Legacy.
Yeah, it's a good thing to note, which is that, you know, the Abjured, once they have control, they don't give it up, which just seems like, oh yeah, they don't make a lot of mistakes. Seems like a little thing. But that's probably one of the hardest things when you're in such a dynamic, fast-paced battlefield.
Yeah.
You're going to have to not make mistakes.
The big key is you really need to just lock down Abjured from the start and keep them in that position. If you let them get out of the cage, then basically it's like the Juggernaut from X-Men. The more they're allowed to move, the more dangerous they become, basically, and it becomes harder and harder to stop them.
Yeah, just completely unstoppable at one point.
Yeah.
You just have to get out of the way, really.
Yep.
Which is a legitimate strategy sometimes. All right, well, that does it for today. We had some great matches. I think, what was your favorite today? I think Apex versus SMP was obviously the highlight of tonight.
Maybe yours, but I like that final set. It was a lot of fun. I think the most fun set was the SMP set, or the SNP set, but it was a really competitive last set that we just had here at the finals, too.
Yeah, the main point about it is dynamic builds that work within this meta. There
is a lot. I do have to say that is something that's changing right now that we really haven't had in any previous meta before, is that there is a lot of things that you normally would kind of take a look at it if you're like an old style player like Zeph or someone who hasn't played the game in a long time, and you would take a look and be like, oh, that's not going to work, but then, well, it kind of just comes up and surprises you. At least here in North America it does, and it's like, well, it actually works, and we haven't really had that before.
Well, it was a pleasure to be here with you, Blue. I'll see you again next month.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right. Well, thank you guys out here. I hope you enjoyed this show. I apologize for the technical difficulties earlier. We will be uploading what you guys missed if we can. So don't forget to check us out next month, and of course all the weeklies. Where, Blue, can they catch those?
You can always catch those right here on the Guild Wars 2 Twitch channel. Once again, guys, those happen every single Sunday for North America at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific, and don't forget the European weeklies also happening on Sunday. Those are a little bit earlier on in the day. Those happen at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. Pacific, and 16 CEST, as I believe is now the time zone. But once again, folks, that about concludes it here on the stream for tonight. My name is Blue. I was joined today by Rue, and we hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thanks once more, folks, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.